you saw your first girlfriend, what would you say to her? Honestly, 6th grade, I asked her out and bought her a stuffed animal, and then we just kind of weren't a couple anymore. Like, neither of us knew how to be a boyfriend and girlfriend. So, one second we're dating, the next we're just not. Never really broke up. We didn't even really talk after that much. Not that we'd spoken much before. At that age, it was pretty much, you're cute. So are you. The thing is, I think someone mistreated her. About a year later, she started wearing really baggy clothes, putting on a lot of weight, and not taking care of herself hygienically. At the time, none of that meant anything to me. Years later, I was reading a book, and in it, this girl is explaining how she was mistreated and how she started acting basically like my first girlfriend had been. I wouldn't directly ask her about it, but I would ask her if she's okay, if she's happy. I know some other kids made fun of her. I just wish if that was what was going on, that I could have helped. Sad thing is, a lot of us mistreated kids kept gravitating towards each other, but we were all masking our crap so much that we kept assuming other kids wouldn't get it. I can look back and see the signs, but at the time we were all playing parts trying to ignore the pain. The awkwardness of teenage romance. We've all been there, friend. Story 2. I'm still good friends with my last long-term girlfriend. She's been in a relationship with a friend of mine for years now, and they seem happy and with zero intention of rekindling anything. I apologized to her for being a jerk after some reflection. I had read a thread in r/2X chromosomes and realized I was guilty of doing some selfish and stupid crap that hadn't even processed as crappy behavior. It hit me like a brick. So I sent her a link to the thread and apologized for the things I realized I did. Though it felt like the right thing to do, to let her know I realized the errors of my ways, it still didn't make me feel any better. I suppose that's karma. I think I was expecting it to somehow remove some regret I had about being a crap to her, but it didn't. Now that I said that to her, I guess I'll start to try and forgive myself. I live with a lot of regrets about things I've done in my life and a lot of chances I should have taken that slipped through my hands. Regret is really damned hard to get over. To your point, I don't think anyone taught me to be a crappy person. But maybe it hadn't ever been brought up that the selfish behavior I exhibited was, well, selfish and crappy. Story 3. In reality, probably not much. I'd like to say to her that I'm sorry. In retrospect, I feel like I broke her heart, but I was just young and wanted to date a variety of people. It was nothing against her. I did once run into her at a bar or reunion thing. It was perfectly friendly. I introduced her to my wife, and then we all awkwardly had something to talk about for about 5 minutes before all going our separate ways. I ran into another long-term ex a while back as well. She walked by with her kid, and I asked if it was her, and she said yes, and the kid dragged her off, and she said, "Sorry," like she did not want to stop and talk. But clearly didn't, because a 5-year-old kid can't really drag you off. Story 4. Well, I'm currently with her, so I'd tell her I love her. As for my first boyfriend, I'd say, I really liked you as a friend, and I'm sorry we decided dating was a good idea. I feel like it ruined our friendship, and we definitely weren't ready for it. We were just kids. I've accepted that we've grown apart, but you're a genuinely nice person, and any guy or gal is lucky to have you. Sometimes wonder how you view me now, since you knew me as a girl, but I'm a boy now. If you need anything, I'm a message away. For some context, me and this guy dated when we were 12. It was my first kiss, and I still remember how it made me feel. I had a lot of anger issues at the time, which was the reason he decided for breaking up with me. I was upset at the time, but I understand now. We had been in the same schools as classmates up until 18, and he was always the same kind and caring guy throughout the years. I genuinely wish him the best. Story 5. I actually came across her on Instagram. I thought my first girlfriend story was a funny one. In 5th grade, she had her best friend call me and ask me to be Jessica's boyfriend. I wasn't sure if I was allowed to have a girlfriend, so I said, hold on. Ran through my house and asked my mom if I'm allowed to have a girlfriend. She said yes, so I sprinted back to the phone and told her absolutely. The next day in school, full of butterflies and nerves, not knowing how to handle this, we just waved and never spoke to each other. So I see her on Instagram, send a request, and my girlfriend accepts. I messaged her, "Hey, you were my very first girlfriend." I intended to tell her the story and reminisce how silly kids can be. She responded with, "So?" Well, I just never replied. Figured we went this long in our relationship without fighting. Why start now? Maybe it's best to leave some memories in the past, like that time he asked his mom permission to date. Story 6. Probably nothing. She was very toxic to me. Cheated on me twice. Now I have no interest in getting any updates about her life. Plus, I'm the happiest I've ever been with my fiancée. After about 6 years of being separated, she texted me at 2 a.m. one night, wanting to catch up. I answered her questions and nothing more. About 7 messages over the course of 2 days. And that was it. Real basics. How's life? What do you do for work? When the questions got answered, that was it. Lol. Never really understood what she wanted. She had a long-term boyfriend at the time. I'm a bit of a ghost on Facebook and I post to Instagram maybe once a year. So maybe texting was her only way of getting that info. But still, it was very weird. Story 7. Have you finally cleared all your debts? My first girlfriend was the assistant manager in a cafe, but lived in quite an expensive outer suburb of a town not far from Oxford. She also had both credit card debt and a loan, taken out when she was having a swing due to bipolar disorder. When I first dated her, she was working a second job, as her main job was barely enough to cover her monthly bills, rent, and debt payments. She quit her second job after we'd been dating a few weeks, right before Christmas too, and she was living off what she told me, £15 a month when she got paid. Story 8. A few weeks ago, I ran into her at a store. She asked about my life, and I told her we had a history dating back from middle school until we were 21, and now at 26, it was a moment of reflection. I told her, I've accomplished everything we once dreamed of. It's a shame you couldn't wait to see it happen. Now I'm living out those dreams with someone else. She's patient and supportive, encouraging me to succeed in life, instead of criticizing me for not having instant success right after high school. Story 9. She got married a few years ago. I was happy for her. Then she blocked me everywhere and had other people block me too. We hadn't talked in years. I was really good friends with her sister and asked her if I offended her somehow. She replied by showing me a picture of her new husband, who looks almost exactly like me. Me and my daughter ran into her and her daughter at the grocery store a while back, and it was exceptionally awkward, to the point that my daughter even asked what the hell just happened. So, I guess, the heck, dude? Story 10. I had 2 relationships over my life as a 21-year-old. Never had much of the opportunity or confidence to get into anymore, but the first one ended because I was at the end of primary school going into high school, after the break in between. I do have fond memories, but at the dance, there was something that I didn't have the confidence to do, and because of that, it made a show for both of us. I don't let it bother me from enjoying my life, and I know it shouldn't matter, but if I could talk to her again, I'd say that I'm sorry and hope that she's living a good life because she was a kind person. It's one of the few life experiences that I look back on to remind myself to be confident, to be a better man, but not just that I want to be bringing positivity to this world that has a lot of negativity while just being myself. It's impossible for me to know my future, but my goal at the moment is to just live life and keep growing and improving until I become the best version of myself physically and, most important to me, mentally. Well, that's one way to end a relationship. Blame it on the education system. Story 11. I ran into mine shortly after I got divorced, while out drinking with some friends. We flirted and combined groups to the next bar. Thanks to a friend, we did not go home together, kissed and exchanged numbers. Talked a bit on the phone and text over the next few days, since she could relate to my situation because the guy she cheated on me with had divorced her a few years prior, including her wanting me to come sleep with her. Fortunately or not, I had my kids and couldn't get away. I then found out from a bartender friend that was with us that my ex came into a restaurant with what I found was a long-term partner. I guess he travels for work or something, and she's still as faithful as when we were together. Lol. Dodged catching feelings or whatever else she might be spreading when I was in a very vulnerable state. But admittedly, it did give me a refresher on once a cheater, always a cheater. That I need to slow down a little with which head I think with. Story 12. If she stuck around long enough for a conversation, probably an apology for how I acted after we broke up. I sent a lot of texts and emails because I was devastated. I was emotionally immature, suffering from severe depression and focused on the way she made me feel, not how I made her feel. I was mentally unwell, but none of it was her fault. It was a tough time for me. I wish I could have acted differently, but I didn't have the maturity to act any other way. I'd been depressed before I met her, and the relationship had patched it. I figured all the pain and crap I'd been through was worth it because it had led me to her. That's not a healthy basis for a relationship. Story 13. If I saw her in person, honestly, I would have nothing to say to her. It took me years to get over her. A lot of lies she told to those around her and to herself to convince herself she was a victim of anything. I realize now that when her dad warned me that he was scared she'd hurt me and not of me hurting her, that he was right, and I should have listened. That same man, an ex-army guy, who by the end of the relationship was treating me like family and making jokes about her and I having kids. Her grandma thanked me for loving and taking care of her granddaughter. Her mother and I are going on little dates just so we can bond. I miss her family ever so dearly, and to know my image in their minds is ruined by the type of things she said. The type of girl to break up with people over text, thousands of miles away on a trip on New Year's after telling you she loves you, less than 2 weeks after your 1-year anniversary. Then to have intimacy with a guy she knows will be at a birthday party for a mutual friend to try to hurt you. There's nothing to say to her. It took a long time to heal from that. She still thinks she was a victim, but her actions cost me my peace, my trust, and worst of all, my family. Story 14. For a first girlfriend, it would be hard. I feel if I were to see them again, I'd cry. Like many of my relationships, it hadn't ended well. But she was someone truly special to me, and it hurt me to my absolute core letting her go. Being able to be openly loved by another woman felt huge. And at the time I was young and reckless and filled with that nothing could possibly go wrong energy. Seeing her brown eyes again, I'd probably fall to pieces and would rush away, hoping she couldn't see me. Even after all these years, I fear I haven't learned how to truly say I'm sorry. Story 15. I mean, we live in the same street and haven't talked for a solid 7 years. So prob's nothing. She broke it off because her friends pressured her to. The leader, for lack of a better term, hated my guts and was one to pester her friends. Let's call her A. She had some own crap going on in her life and made it a challenge to pick on anyone she could and destroy whatever she could, without getting her own hands dirty. So A gave her an ultimatum. Either break things off with me or lose all her friends. It was a drama. I was broken up with a whisper in my ear of A told me to break everything off or I'll be alone. I'm sorry, but we can't speak anymore. I was angry and miserable. Tried to confront A. Doing so with tears running down your face doesn't work. Crap got spun back around on me and I just disappeared for a while. Well, we live on the same street. I see her a few times a week. An awkward stare is the best we can muster. Story 16. Broke up 2 months ago. She wants her hoodie back, so we may talk when she comes to get it this weekend or whenever. Things were near perfect the first 6 months. Then the last 2 months got toxic due to her conflicting values and money. She hated that I always have a safety net and had resources within my family. I grew up very financially sound and she didn't. Caused a lot of jealousy, miscommunication, projection, and the biggest being so prideful to never ask for help if she needed. We just wanted to live differently. But I would say, I hope one day you can hush up and hear what hurt me. But I think you're not capable to do that with your reality you're living in. But I do hope you're okay and find your happiness. Because you helped me through my trauma and what I went through, and I hope you will take a step back and help your own where I could not help you. Story 17. If I saw my first boyfriend, I think I would cry, just out of happiness to see him again. I don't want to be with him now, but he was my best friend for 8 years. Was the best, sweetest, funniest, most easygoing person. Always made me feel pretty and special. Explored all of our firsts together. We were never embarrassed. He never judged me or compared me. We just had fun experimenting. If anything, he set my expectations too high for what to expect out of a relationship. For someone like me who has a lot of trouble trusting people and keeping friends, I tend to cut and run and burn bridges when my feelings are hurt. It meant a lot to be that close to someone. We went through stupid mistakes and hurt each other, but he always got me and saw the best in me. And we always loved each other, even when we weren't in love anymore. I hear he has a kid now, and I'm so happy for him. It's just sad to think I'll never see someone again who was such a pivotal part of my life. I'd love to see his face one more time and give him a hug and wish him well. Thanks, A. Story 18. If I saw her now, I'm still learning and unraveling your lies over the last 2.5 years. You hurt me beyond belief. And I went from being heartbroken earlier this year to monumentally angry. I don't know if you're a sociopath or simply manipulative and toxic, but you isolated me away from everyone else just so you could feed everyone different stories. I cannot believe I fell for all of that despite how much crap I already went through. I gave you absolutely everything. The world and more. It tore me to pieces. I'll forever have trust issues thanks to you. Yes, we had good memories I'll never forget. I was so in love with you and you apparently loved me back. I don't know what to believe anymore. I wish you weren't like how you are. I saw my whole future with you. 2.5 years after knowing you, I don't even know if I even knew who you really were. The thing is, you might be reading this. If you are, feel free to reach out, but don't expect anything apart from distrust. Story 19. I'm sorry. For context, I got rejected from the girl I liked and rebounded into her. I never had intimacy or anything. We were teens, but the relationship lasted about 6 months. I was never interested in her, and she fell for me. I'll always be sorry about that and how I broke her heart that day after college when I ended it. I know she went to see her mom at her work and cried. I hope she's doing well. It taught me a lesson pretty early on that rebounding is not always an intimate thing, and often people do it after rejection and even after breakups, because it brings a level of comfort. You often find these, what I now term rebound relationships, don't last. I've been both the dumper and the dumpy, and going through both has taught me so much. Important lessons that I think most people go through but don't speak about. If I have another relationship, that will be number 3. And I know for a fact that I'm now in the best position in my life to have a partner. Mentally, emotionally. I am me. I'm not perfect, but I know my flaws. I know my strengths, and I'm happy being me. So until the day comes where I meet somebody else, I'll be living my absolute best life. Story 20. I'm still in touch with my first ex. So just general catching up. We don't talk as much as we used to, but she's also friends with my spouse. Some of the middle exes would be a different story. I have one ex who broke up with me to be with that guy she told me not to worry about. Probably the only ex where running into each other would have any animosity. I have another ex who joined a cult after we broke up and cut ties with the outside world. There would be some awkward conversation there if I saw her again. I hope she gets out eventually. Other than that, I have one ex I hang out with somewhat regularly, a few that I'm still in touch with, and a few I might not even recognize at a glance anymore. If I ran into any of them, it would mostly be catching up as time permits. Even the one who left me for the other guy. I hope she's well. I hope she's learned to be a little more honest with herself and her partner, but I hope she's okay. Story 21. I have a twisted but satisfying story. She was my first serious relationship at 15. She cheated with a long list of guys from our area, and I was the last one to know. Even my big brother knew before I did, but didn't have the heart to tell me. Even uglier, I didn't have the heart to cut her off after I found out and let the nightmare continue for some time. I recently moved back to my hometown after being away for 7 years for school, to take a solid new job. Recognized her out in public one evening, stumbling around in some kind of stuff and muttering to herself. Hair was short and bleached, and she was covered in new tattoos. Parked my car, approached her, gently turned her head to look in my eyes. She recognized me. I was happy for a moment before she broke down sobbing. I helped her to my car and drove her 20 kilometers back to her mother's home while she cried about all the mistakes she'd made since we were teenagers. Evictions, stints in jail, lost custody of her 2 kids, and rehab programs. I didn't say much. Hugged her and gave her to her mother, then FaceTimed my current girlfriend from my car expecting to get yelled at. She knew who I was talking about through my stories about my past. She weirdly understood why I offered her a ride, and it was a happy conversation. Went back to the office the next day with a level of mental clarity I've never felt before. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 22. My first awkward hellos and whatever till I can find an exit in the conversation. We only dated 6 months. She was religious, I wasn't. Didn't work out. What's interesting to me is I don't think about the following long-term relationship. 4 years, broke up after college, cheated on me, etc. Nearly as much as the next girlfriend I had for something like 3 to 4 months, who broke up with me to focus on her career and later move across the country. I guess I just liked her more. She was the one who got away. Not that I'd pick her over my wife, who's my absolute soulmate, but seeing her again would be super awkward, with me trying not to reveal how much time I spent missing her and being genuinely interested in what she's been doing the decade. Story 23. I'm sorry for being such a schmuck and handling rejection so badly. I've wanted to make amends for the things I said and did, but you didn't owe me that. I'm glad you never gave me the satisfaction. It made me take a hard look at myself and embark on a journey of healing. Whatever you're doing now and whoever you're doing it with, I'm rooting for you. I'm glad that the time we shared together was so meaningful. Flames of passion burned brightly between us, and quickly. The passion quickly fizzled out, but I have some great memories with you. Said passion made for some intense feelings and memories. I think about you often. Not as often as I used to, but I almost always remember you fondly. I learned a lot from my mistakes, and although I wouldn't say I'm healed, I will say I'm a better person. So, thank you for the memories, the experiences, and the wisdom. Good luck in any future endeavors you wish to pursue, and I wish you healing and nothing but the best. Story 24. I saw her 10 years after we broke up. She had gotten married and had kids. She visited my work for business. She didn't know I worked there. We spoke, caught up, and parted ways. I saw her 2 weeks later. She said she was now divorced. I was in a fresh relationship with someone I really liked. However, I knew I was vulnerable to my ex's and if she was to try it with me, so I asked for a transfer to avoid her again. We ended on bad terms, and I always wanted to apologize for my bad behavior. First relationship, and I was a terrible boyfriend. I had done that on our first meeting. Story 25. I said I was sorry. Sadly, she passed away right after she graduated early from her high school in a car wreck on the interstate on her way back down to college. We'd been broken up for a few years, but we were always amicable and remained friends. She was incredibly smart as well as a gifted artist. Was even able to graduate early and get into her university of choice. I was such an immature little crap back then, and as the years went on, leading up to our senior year, I felt the need to amend what was never said. So I wrote her a letter explaining how much I appreciated her in her more formative years and how I wish I could have been a better person. Furthermore, she actually made me a better person over the next couple of years just by living a virtuous life. In the letter, I told her I was sorry and that she never deserved any of her childish relationship tribulations. She was far more mature than I at the same age. I gave her the letter and a hug on her last day at her school. It was in a sealed envelope. It was the last time we ever spoke or saw each other. She passed away about 3 months later in a horrific car crash, wrapping her car around a tree in a median late at night. It was an instant, and she wasn't found for almost 5 hours. Whatever her final hours on this earth were like, still haunt me to this day. She was going to change her world for the better, and it's still awful she was taken before she had a chance. Still don't know if she read the letter or what she thought about it, but her family asked me to be a pallbearer, which I obliged. Her current boyfriend at the time was a friend of mine as well, and assured me that there was always peace between her and myself. She never held a grudge. I also was in another relationship at the time and happened to still be with that amazing woman nearly 17 years later. I truly feel like my first real relationship is to be attributed to a lot of whom I am today, and I'm more thankful for that than I can put in words. So, thank you, Marissa, for everything. You were amazing, and I hope you're thriving somewhere in the multiverse. You are deeply missed by many, still to this day. Maybe our paths will cross again. Story 26. I really hope I didn't ruin your perspective in dating and how a significant other should treat you. It was a pleasant surprise to sit across from you in our last quarter of college together, even though we never shared a class before that. Background, we dated our junior year and senior year of high school, went to college together, and I ended it toward the end of our first year. Still have mixed feelings about how I went about breaking up with you. There were times I wish I told you that I had cheated on you with some random girl. But now that I'm looking back at it, I think I wanted to confess to make me feel less guilty. I think that would have ruined your ability to trust people, so I'm somewhat glad I just said that I lost feelings and couldn't see a future for us. I broke up with you because I was ashamed and embarrassed. You taught me a lot about love and caring for another person. I wish I'd recognized this while we were together and not 4 years later. Still think fondly of you, and I feel a certain way when people ask about my experience with the relationships, being that you were my first and last one. It's been 4 years now, and I hope you're doing well. You're a great first girlfriend, and I'm glad I shared many of my firsts with you. Story 27. My ex contacted me out of the blue via text. Intense 5-year relationship in my early 20s that ended not great. I figured I was grown up now and could have a normal conversation with her and catch up as friends. We texted a bit and reminisced a bit, and one day went out for lunch and a chat. She was married with kids. I knew this well beforehand as we have mutual friends, and we chatted about that, life, and being grown-ups. After lunch, I was dropping her off at work, and instead of getting out, she suggested we go back to my place and relive some old times. I was pretty livid on the inside as she had spent time fondly telling me about her husband and kids. I told her that it would be a bad idea and said we probably shouldn't talk anymore. She very quietly and quickly got out of my car and walked to her workplace. She turned back to look at me. I was processing stuff in my head and was watching her go, and she had this mix of shock and confusion in her face. Part of me felt victorious and wanted to grin evilly at her. I still harbored feelings that she had been very emotionally manipulative during our relationship, but another part of me was hurt that people could be so two-faced. In retrospect, I don't feel like I won anything, and I realized I probably lost a great deal of faith in people that day. Story 28. I actually sent her a Facebook message a few years ago. We dated all throughout high school and part of college. I partied way too much, drank heavily, and brawled often. She was a straight-A student and president of her class. We dated off and on and tried to rekindle in the mid to late 20s. I finally sat her down and told her it wasn't going to work for me and I wished her nothing but the best. In the message, I basically apologized for being a 16 to 20-year-old who was running from childhood trauma, and I'm glad she's happy. How she was an amazing person, but we both knew it needed to end. Recently, we went out to dinner with her and her husband, and we all had a blast. It was one of those relationships where we were completely too different. She's an absolutely amazing human, but we're polar opposites. Even if I wanted it to work, even today, we are way too fundamentally different. She isn't the one who got away. She's the one I needed to let go to find her way. Story 29. Not a damn thing. I don't even think about her. She'll come up in conversation sometimes if I'm talking about something from that particular point in my life for whatever reason, but I never really think about her, and I really don't care. She didn't want to put the same effort in as me and was way too immature. I just wish I had seen the red flags. I wasn't perfect, and I'm still not, but I was the one putting all the effort in during our brief time together. So yeah, probably wouldn't even acknowledge her in any way because she just doesn't deserve the attention. The same goes for a lot of people from my life back then. So many toxic people that I'm free of. Story 30. Oh God, she's out again. She was, or is, very, very jealous and controlling. This is why I don't put up with those traits now. Oddly, we ran into each other by sheer chance 10-ish years post-breakup and had a 15 to 20-minute talk where we cleared the air and put it all behind us. She had a lot going on at home then that I wasn't aware of, etc. We were both young and jumped in too quick. We didn't hate each other or anything, and it is good to clear things up and realize that. Fast forward another 5 years and I find out that she's engaged to someone I know through some mutual friends. I never told him that we had dated. He knew we'd gone to high school together and that was all. I later found out that she was back to her old controlling and jealous ways and that all of his friends were hinting, subtle or not, that he should run while he has the chance. He didn't, and they got married. I hope for his sake she's changed. I really do. Story 31. Would probably be a very positive conversation to ask how her life is going and has gone. And I'm sure she would do the same. It was a good relationship, but we both knew we were not ready for each other or ready for such. Young love tends to be like that. If anything, it's all positive memories. Glad it happened, but also glad it ended as it taught us things you wouldn't know unless you try it first. Nowadays, I'm a happily married man with an amazing wife who is 100% my mirror personality, life experience-wise. I don't think about exes, but at least my first one was a good person, and I only wish her the best. And I hope she has had the same luck I did. Story 32. I've actually had this on my mind a little bit lately. My first real girlfriend got married, had 4 kids, got cheated on, and I think maybe moved back to where we grew up. While she was trying to mend her marriage, she was talking to me a lot on social media and sending me pics that a married woman should not send to someone who isn't her husband. But she felt unloved and unattractive, and I could tell wanted to feel sexy. I don't feel great about accepting those pics, but I'm a single guy. Sue me. But she started talking to me in a way that made me feel like she viewed me as a surrogate boyfriend. Like she got mad at me for not replying to her for a day. Got mad that I didn't say good morning to her or good night. I told her that wasn't my responsibility and honestly kinda ghosted her. I've heard from a mutual friend that she's trying to reconnect with me but doesn't know I live in that town again. I see this friend once a month and he always asks if I talk to her. Sometimes I want to because I'm lonely and I could have a physical connection with her pretty easily, I'm sure. But I also don't want to because she has a billion kids and an ex-husband and just a lot of drama I don't want to deal with. So I don't know what I would say. I'm half in the fence of, what's up girl, and sorry I'm not interested. Story 33. This is in no way an attempt to get back with you. I have a new girlfriend and I'm very happy with her. You are not what was right for me. I learned many valuable lessons from being with you. I would like to apologize. I was a schmuck. I never really liked you. I led you on, but I never wanted to hurt you. I never saw us as a long-term commitment, yet I stayed when you asked. Which in the moment felt like what was best because you wouldn't be hurt. I was only delaying something I knew would come. After we broke up, I promised myself 2 things, which I live by every day. That I would never again lead someone on and that I would always ask before I pushed someone's boundaries and stop as soon as they showed any hesitation. I would like to apologize for pushing your boundaries and leading you on. Those are my biggest regrets in my life. I'd also like to thank you for being so kind to me. It could have been much meaner when I broke up with you, but you were very kind. Nothing can excuse the way I acted during that relationship. I was at a very confusing time in my life. I didn't know what I wanted or who to surround myself with, even though you probably realized it wasn't as good for you as you made me seem. That it's best if we just take what we learned and put this in the past. Whenever I think of the lessons you taught me, I never feel like I gave you a satisfactory apology. I'm sorry. We were together for a few months. Haven't talked to or seen her since we broke up 2 years ago. I would never get back with her, and it was a terrible experience. But I don't think I'd be where I am today without that. I'm glad I learned those lessons. Story 34. I'm sorry. I tried. First boyfriend when I was 14 to 18. He struggled with bad habits the whole time we were together, but I was too young and unexposed to know for a long time. Once I realized, I tried to help him and let his parents know. His mom had issues too. His dad was blinded by the love for his mom. Broke up when I was 18 to 19. I've been happily married for 10 years now. He and I didn't stay in touch in any capacity, but I would hear he was still struggling. Small town problems. I got a call that he passed away in December of 2021. His mom found him unresponsive from suspected coding. I'd long moved on, but that will always bother me. Story 35. When I met you, I was just a kid that had built up my defenses. So I gave my heart completely, Vaseline over the lenses. Memories don't go away. I remember every day. I never ever stop wondering if you ever still think of us. I don't need a photograph because you never left my mind. No, you've never left my mind. Such a burden to carry around the vestiges of dreams. Seriously though, I'm friends with nearly all of my exes. I'm still friends with my first girlfriend on Facebook. We'd probably catch up a bit and I'd ask her about retro gaming. The first love I would avoid engaging with. She had borderline personality disorder and switched nearly overnight from thinking I was all good things to all bad things. She was so incredibly cold and broke my heart. I wish her the best, but I don't want anything to do with her. Story 36. I re-met my first girlfriend about 10 years after she broke up with me because she was likely already seeing the guy she started dating next behind my back. She had recently ended her resulting very long relationship with that guy. Things went all right. We began seeing each other in a non-committal sort of way. I made her an awful lot in ways her ex was unable to do. Then another ex moved home. I began seeing her non-committally as well. They were all from different life phases, and so didn't really have much contact or knowledge of one another. But I didn't BS any of these women that they weren't the only girl I was seeing semi-regularly. Mostly it was an argument by ex number one that she didn't want to be in another relationship right away, and the other ex being a pretty freewheeling type of girl. She and I were friends who got into trouble together for more of the time we knew each other than we were lovers. Then the big ex moved back home. I was there for her as a friend at first because she had been forced to run home by an abusive husband. Once her divorce proceedings began, we realized we hadn't broken things off as finally as we had first thought. There were still a lot of feelings there on both sides. As soon as the big ex started getting involved with me romantically, she said she would only see me exclusively, and I should make that choice. Freewheeling friend X was of course understanding. She was in a place where she was trying to find her career footing and wasn't interested so much in building up a full relationship. Ex number one, I secretly hoped I would spur into action somehow. I was hoping that when I told her that when I'd been given an ultimatum, and I had to make a choice, that she would say, then choose me. And I worded it in a way that deliberately implied I hadn't decided to do that and was bringing it to her because I wanted her opinion. But when I told her, she just said, we can go to being friends. To which I replied that it's pretty obvious that she and I doing friend stuff at the time was going to reliably turn into intimate stuff, because we had never been just friends, and that wasn't going to be the healthiest way to start a new relationship with someone else to keep seeing her. Anyway, I had my answer on how much she loved me since she just gave up on the spot. I'm happy I got the second chance with her, though. I was able to give her a chance as a semi-successful and experienced adult, not a stupid teenager. And it felt good to have that opportunity to really know if it could have worked, and we were just too young or I was too immature at the time. And as to the happy ending, the ex that gave me the ultimatum, we're happily married and been together for a decade. Wouldn't take back the decision to start seeing her seriously and dropping everyone else for anything. Story 37. I saw my ex the other day. Apparently I know people she hangs out with. Met them and their friends and started talking to the ones I know while she kinda hid herself behind the others. Later that day I texted her saying I would have said hi and checked how she was doing nowadays. But I didn't, since she didn't seem interested in talking to me. She replied with, I would have if my friends weren't there, since most of them think you still have feelings for your ex if you don't hate them. Me and my ex have no reason to have a grudge towards each other since it was a mutual decision to break up. And the only reason for us not being friends anymore is the same reason we broke up, simply being that we grew apart from each other. We also used to do the same activities where we used to chat a bit, but eventually I had to stop going because of work and college getting in the way. Story 38. To be honest, I miss the intimacy. That was always something special with you, but I wasn't ready for the actual relationship. I hope you two are at a great point in your life, that you're happy. You really deserve that. I am, but I still think about you and the fun we had. Sometimes I miss those days where we could spend hours just talking about everything while staring at the night sky and dreaming about what the future might hold. You meant more to me than you will ever know. Even if I could never say the 3 words you wanted me to tell you, because of what I learned from you, I waited until I was ready before I got involved with someone else. And you will hear it from me every single day, even if we've been together for more than 20 years now. I did love you, but was drowning in my own mess, which you helped me with, even if you don't know how much. Take care. You'll always be in my heart, and I wanted to thank you for making me a better person. Story 39. I know this will go unnoticed in the sea of comments, but I dreamed of her just yesterday. It was a heavy dream, walking on the thin line between a nightmare and a regular dream. I dreamed of my birthday, and I celebrated it when I first met her, and there were all the people dear to me. And she showed up, and I cried tears of joy. Then later, when she left, I was crying, panicking, and searching for her. I woke up in tears. Our relationship ended because of my schmuck friends who fed her lies about me, and she believed in them and left me. So I guess I'd tell her everything. I'd tell her that I moved on but never got over it. I know it's pathetic, and I know everyone will tell me I'm wrong, but I'd tell her I missed her. I know we will never be in another relationship, and I embrace that. Even if she asked me for it, I'd decline. All I want is a hug, her smile, and a proper closure I never got. I never loved another person like her, and it ended too abruptly for me. I think I would have gone over it if I had got a proper goodbye. Well, if you like these stories, here's more. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. Catch you in that video.